All right. Well,
Right.
welcome, Sheila. Thank you so much for joining us today. So, for those of you that don't know, welcome to our Q&A with our Dean, Sheila Ager. We've got a couple questions that came in from our students through the Google form. So, I guess to kick it off, we'll just sort of talk about, I mean, some students don't exactly know what it is that the Dean does. So, what does the Dean of Arts do?
Okay, well, Nathaniel, that's a really good question to start with, because I started this job almost a year and a half ago, and I think I'm still learning what a dean does. Sometimes it seems to me that a dean does everything they're told to do, and that the job changes from day to day. So that doesn't tell you very much, but it maybe it describes my experience and how it feels. I will start by saying something that not everybody always recognizes, and that is that the dean is a professor. So I am somebody who came in as a teacher and a researcher, like all our other faculty members. My own department, by the way, if anybody's interested, is classical studies. So my area of interest is actually ancient history. Um, the dean, I guess if I were to try to summarize it in just a couple of words, the dean is responsible for the well-being of the faculty. And I think maybe that's the best way to think about it. And then there's a whole lot of things that fall under that umbrella. So if I were to say a couple of words just about the Faculty of Arts, the Faculty of Arts is one of the biggest ones at the University of Waterloo. We have about 7,800 students when we combine graduate and undergraduate. We have around 140 staff members, and we have around 340 faculty members. So over 8,000 people in the faculty doing the various things that are part of the faculty's mission. And so the dean is responsible for the well-being and the interests and the advancement of that group of people. So students, staff, and faculty alike. Well, part of my job, I guess, is management, as in any kind of large organization where you have to manage various activities and initiatives. And I'm incredibly fortunate that I have an incredible team of people to actually do a lot of the groundwork. One of the funny things about advancing, and this is something that students may discover as they embark on careers, the higher you advance in management, the less you know about what the organization is actually doing, because you're not on the ground anymore in the various areas. So, for example, I have several associate deans who do a lot of the work of keeping things going. I have lots of wonderful staff members who do that. And I have department chairs and directors who look after the academics as well. So it's a team effort, always. And so that management side, the dean is also supposed to provide leadership and vision. And I'm going to say that on that front, I have some views around where I would like to see the Faculty of Arts at UW go. But I also think of visioning and leadership as a team exercise as well. I think if you go in and the only vision you want to listen to is yours, then that's not really a vision, that's an agenda. I mean, I think a vision is built with other members of the team. So the dean is responsible for the well-being of the faculty internally. We also represent our faculty in the larger world of the university, but also outside the university as well. And I guess to me, it all boils down to responsibility in the end. That you're sort of I don't say the buck stops here, because actually the buck doesn't always stop here. But we are responsible for the well-being and the interests of this large, diverse, wonderful group of people that is the Faculty of Arts.
For sure. All right. Well, thank you so much for that. That helps explain it a little better. Um, So I guess we'll get to a question that a lot of students are asking now, and that's sort of about the situation that's happening, the COVID pandemic, and all the challenges that the university is facing right now. So can you describe sort of how the Faculty of Arts itself has responded to the pandemic and how it's adjusted to support students in this time?
Okay, well, there's lots to say there, because lots has been done. You know, we could wish that we could have done more and could do more, because this is a hugely challenging thing that we're all living with. And you know, we understand very well the challenges that students are faced with right now, and we're doing our best to support and help. But I realize that it may not always feel like we're able to do everything that's necessary. So we, you know, in terms of the initial responses to the pandemic, I think you all know that, of course, the sort of critical time hit last March when we decided we had to close down the campus, and we had to move all the winter term courses online immediately. We took a week out to give people a little bit of time to adjust, but that's, of course, that's hardly nothing. Hardly nothing. Wait a minute. I think that probably was not grammatical. Oh dear. Um, so we knew that what a tremendous you know, sort of shock and challenge that would be. So one of the things the university did do was to try to put in place the opportunity for students, you know, who were feeling, I'm sure, very dislocated, to simply choose credit, no credit, and not be damaged by grades that might have suffered as a result of that shift. Instructors did their best to pivot very quickly to put the winter term courses, or the final couple of weeks of the winter term courses, online. That was a challenge, and I'm sure that if we had the opportunity for all of our constituency, all the students to speak up, they'd have all kinds of interesting stories about what those last couple of weeks of winter were like. I'm pretty sure they were extremely challenging. The University of Waterloo does have, and I'm sure probably you're all aware of this, we do have a lot of experience in online teaching. It's been part of, you know, sort of distance teaching, which we now refer to as either online or remote. It's been part of what UW has done for decades. But that doesn't mean that the immediate switch is any smoother, maybe, than it would be somewhere else. We did put in place, just to try to respond to some of the challenges, we did put in place over the spring summer term a lot of co-op online learning assistance. So students taking on co-op positions as online learning assistants to help instructors move things online in a perhaps smoother manner for the spring term, and then also for the subsequent fall term. And that addressed a couple of issues. Of course, the need to try to create something good, quality education online, but also the need to find positions for our co-op students, because, of course, that's another huge impact that COVID has had, is on the labor market and the available jobs. So those are some of the things that we did to try to move things online as smoothly as possible. And I can, you know, I say as smoothly as possible, but I completely understand if from the student point of view it felt extremely bumpy and not smooth. It was a hard decision to remain remote, but, you know, in the fall, but one of the things that I feel like I feel like we made the right decision is when we look especially at the United States, and what's happened in a lot of colleges and universities down there who went fully live and have had enormous outbreaks, and have had to close down, and even some of the Canadian institutions who tried to be more live and have since had to pull back. So we made what I think was the right decision for the fall. I also think we've made the right decision for the winter in remaining mostly remote for the winter as well. I realize, though, how disappointing that was to everybody, to students and to faculty, because I know everybody is suffering from cabin fever and the lack of community and, you know, the challenges of learning online. I mean, I hear a lot from instructors about the challenges of teaching online, and there are real challenges there. But boy, we also understand the challenges that there are for learning online. We did put together, I say we as if I personally had anything to do with it, actually, the university put together the Waterloo Ready program, the sort of online readiness program that ran in the summer for new students coming in this fall, and that is also running now for the students who are going to be new in the winter, with a whole lot of angles and aspects to it. Whoops, sorry, dropped my phone. Figured that was going to happen. So there's a lot of aspects to that program that are intended to help incoming students. So peer mentoring, for example, you know, setting up virtual communities, because as I mentioned already, the loss of community is really problematic. Virtual events, a lot of faculty-specific information, and so on. And so that's all still live on the on the Waterloo Ready website. And as I said, it's running now for the winter as well. Let me see, what else have we done so far? Probably there's other things that I'd probably like to mention. Yeah, one of the things that, no, actually, maybe I'll wait until we get into some other things before I go on with that. I think that you also asked specifically about what the Faculty of Arts has done to support students during this time. So we've talked a little bit about the adjustments that we've made to the teaching, which of course you're already well aware of. And that we've done our best to create quality in the teaching. Oh, I remembered what it was I wanted to say. We also ran a fairly extensive survey in the spring term to see what the experience was like for students who were unexpectedly doing full-time studies in the spring, all of it remote. And we've got a lot of information back from students on this, including the real challenges that people have. And so that was extremely valuable information for us. And we're now looking at that information. We already looked at it in terms of planning courses for the fall term. We're also looking at it as we plan for the winter term. And I want to come back to the planning for the winter term in a few minutes, maybe, if we have the opportunity. But you had asked about student support. And in the faculty, as probably most of you know, one of our core support areas for students in the Faculty of Arts is the Arts Undergraduate Office. And we have added to our student advising complement. So we now have more advisors on and available. And I think you've probably all found this yourselves as students that, and we certainly find it from our end of things, that a lot of conversation, and whether it's through advising or whether it's through teaching, that it can take a lot longer when you have to do it online. You know, you have to formulate your message, you have to write it out, we have to write back, and it can just be more time consuming, and also just because there isn't the availability of just being there in the room with someone, having a really casual question that, you know, and you get an answer that solves all your issues, plus the issues of the 10 people who are with you in the conversation. And because we don't have that, there is a lot more intensity in the work that the advisors are doing. So that's why we have needed to have more advisors available to us at this point. I'm just going to give you a second there, Nathaniel, if you wanted to say something else while I try to reattach my my phone so it I don't have to hold it so that it's jiggling.
No problem. I guess sort of just going off of the different support that's available. I know that there were a lot of questions concerning sort of like student mental health with
Yes.
the new situation happening. So what has the University of the Faculty of Arts been able to address in terms of the mental health crisis?
Okay, that is an excellent question, Nathaniel. I'm glad you asked that. I have okay, now I have tentatively reattached my phone to its stand. It will probably collapse again, but we'll presume it won't break. It doesn't have far to fall. Yes. Well, there are a lot of reasons for mental stresses. There's reasons for mental stress in attending university in the first place. I mean, one of the things that you can know at least about all your instructors is that we've all been there. And so we do understand a lot of the mental stress that's associated with attending university. So it's a challenge. It's a new challenge. And it's happening at a time in your life when you're breaking away from things that you were very familiar with and comfortable with. So there's all those challenges that are part of university life anyway, regardless of doing it under the current circumstances. So yes, the university actually for a few years now, and not just Waterloo but other institutions, we have been being made more and more aware of the need to address the mental wellness and well-being of our students. So we've already had in place certain initiatives and priorities for our students, such as the President's Committee, on student mental health that it reports directly to the President, and has put in place or has created a number of recommendations around how we can address student mental wellness and help to ensure it and address issues as they arise. So this is a body. This committee has representation from all the faculties, as well as from the campus wellness, and it also has student representation, which is absolutely vital for our understanding of where students are in terms of their mental health, mental well-being. We've also created, the university has also created through campus wellness, together with WUSA, with the Student Association, they collaborated to create the Empower Me program. So I think you're probably aware of that, what that does in terms of linking students up to the kind of support that they may be needing on a regular basis, including on an emergency basis, a 24/7 ability to access mental wellness supports, including students who are living outside of Canada, because that's one of the realities right now as well, is that many of our international students who would more typically have come to Canada to attend in person are working in their home countries, where they're facing the challenges that are typical for where they are. So we're able now to provide counseling service, not just obviously locally, but to our students abroad at a distance. I think one new thing that's actually quite recent is the mental health widget that's been added to Learn. And again, the idea behind that is to acquaint students with what services are available and give them quick and easy access to anything that they may need. We know that isolation is very challenging for students. Students may also be facing home situations, in some cases home situations that are very supportive, but in other cases may not be. That it can be very disappointing to not be able to come away and come to the institution. So we're all very aware of that. And the biggest piece of advice I think we would have is always reach out to an advisor, reach out to one of the counseling services, reach out to a friend, reach out to an instructor. I mean, as faculty members, we're not necessarily trained in assisting people who are facing mental wellness challenges, but we know where to send you and where to help you find the help. And the last thing we want any of our students to do is suffer in silence, and not reach out for help. So that's incredibly important. There was another thing I wanted to mention on this front, in terms of trying to address and maybe be proactive about issues around our students' mental health, and that is, I'm not sure if the announcement's already gone out to the students. It came out to the faculty earlier today, I think, or possibly late yesterday, and that has to do with the timing of the winter term. That the university has decided it is going to delay the start of classes in the winter term until January 11th. Normally, I think we would have been set to start on January 5th. And now with the delay till the 11th, the hope there is actually that people, including our students, will be able to take a break over the holiday hiatus. It's just, we know how hard everybody is working. And we think that there needs to be a substantial break there for people to just rest, relax, and recuperate. So we're delaying the start to the winter term. We're also putting in a couple of non-class days in mid-March. So there'll be a couple of days of shutdown, as if they were snow days. And of course, the university still has the big question of, what does a snow day look like under COVID? If we have a great big blizzard, are we all going to be disappointed because we were all staying home anyway? I don't know. That's, we don't have an answer to that one yet, I'm afraid. But we're certainly cognizant of trying to give students a break. And of course, we're also going to have the regular reading break that we always have in the winter term.
All right, sounds good. I know I'm definitely looking forward to having a couple more days, so I think that's a really great initiative. Kind of going back to what you were talking about earlier, in terms of like what has changed in the winter term from the fall term. I know that we've had a lot of students that are fearing that they're sort of losing connection with their classes since they're all asynchronous and there's no synchronous lectures. So we have some students wondering if that's going to change at any point, and sort of why the majority of our courses are asynchronous right now.
That's a really fair question because, as I said, we know that one of the biggest challenges is around community and connection. And one of the things we're hearing, and it moves us, is students who are saying, I haven't even spoken with a professor, and that makes me sad, because that is a huge part of the experience and what the experience is supposed to be. And those of you who are upper year, that because you've had that experience. Those of you who are first year maybe haven't had it yet. We're certain that you're going to have it before you graduate. But we really do understand how challenging it is. And there's a tendency, I think, sometimes among students to feel that professors are these elevated beings that are too scary to approach. And we don't obviously want you to think that. We are ordinary humans. But we understand. And I think that when we're doing stuff online, it maybe creates even that further barrier where you don't feel that comfortable always approaching. And perhaps especially when what you're looking at is not live interaction, where, you know, most of us try to like tell a joke, even if it's really lame, you know, we can at least we can make a connection. But when what you're watching is, say, maybe a videotape lecture, it feels a lot more formal, and the person up there probably feels a lot less human. So, first of all, just to explain around the issue of why the courses were set asynchronously in the first place. That was very largely an equity decision, so as to be fair to all of our students. We absolutely understand the challenge of it, and the real barrier that it makes to being able to connect. But if we required our students to log in at a specific time in order to attend the class, that could disadvantage some of our students. It could disadvantage, say, some of our international students who are living in quite a distant time zone, might have to be up in the middle of the night to attend the class. We also know about a quarter of our students, I think, in one of our surveys, responded that they did not have the most reliable of internet connections. And so that's another big reason for not wanting to say, okay, you have to be here at this time on this day, or, you know, forget it. So that was an issue as well, the potential for poor internet connections, including sharing them with your family. I don't know if you know, many of you are probably at home with more than one person in the home using the internet, and when everybody's on the internet at the same time, then you know, you see the problems that arise, and so that could be a problem, and also simply those who don't have the best home situation necessarily, you know, with possibly sick family members, or, you know, not a private space to be able to work, you know, at a given time, you know, so that you have to be able to, you know, manage your own time and space. So for all those reasons, we decided that the bulk of the teaching should be asynchronous. And we did allow for some synchronous activity, but we wanted to make sure that it didn't disadvantage students who couldn't log in at a specific time. Now, as I said, we did do this extensive survey, and of course, one of the things that we've heard from many students, it's funny because I think students are split, and maybe, you know, you could feel two things at once. One, you know, I really like asynchronous because, you know, I didn't feel like getting up for an 8:30 class. I'd much rather, you know, do it at 2:30 in the afternoon. And, you know, as someone who is a night owl and not an early riser, I'm very sympathetic to that point of view. I hate 8:30 classes as much as any of you do. So there's that advantage to the asynchronous, but then at the same time, people were talking about the lack of connection, the lack of community, the lack of live interaction, not only with the instructor but with classmates, right? So yeah, so we realize it's a disadvantage, you know, whichever way we go. We tried to go the route that we felt was the fairest, even if it had these disadvantages. And it's not just the lack of connection too. I think there's something about having structured class time that kind of forces you to do things. And I'm like that just as much. You know, I was like that as a student. It was valuable to me to have structured activities that forced me to do things that, yes, I have to do the work. Yes, I have to do this and so on. If, you know, otherwise I might save it all up and try to do it the night before the final exam. You know, I mean, I remember what that feels like. Okay. So for winter term, in a very, very roundabout way to getting around to what you were asking about, will things be any different in the winter? I think a little bit different. We're still looking at the majority of the classes being offered asynchronously, but we've tried to build in a little room for more synchronous content. So perhaps more courses that haven't yet used synchronous will now be able to use some. and others may be able to increase the amount. So up to 90 minutes a week, I think that we've said is okay to try to schedule some synchronous activity. And we hope that that will go some ways to addressing the lack of connection, and also the feeling of unstructured time and, having to manage all your own time. We really understand that one of the challenges of attending university, and again, I remember this extremely well, is that responsibility for managing your own time. And when you're fully remote learning, wow, do we ever expect you to manage your own time? And that is a challenge, and I totally understand that. I still don't think I'm the best time manager in the world. So any synchronous activity, though, that we do have in the winter is going to have to be recorded or otherwise made available to students who can't participate, because we can't disadvantage the students who aren't able to be part of that. Does that answer that question?
I think so. Yeah, fair enough. I think yeah, students are looking for a little bit more connection. So that's nice to hear that it's coming, and that we're going in the right direction in terms of getting a little bit more community back. So we've also had a few questions from co-op students in the faculty, that are sort of worried about, since the employment market's not looking the same as it did before, how does that affect, it is affecting co-op. So is there a plan for students that are in co-op that are maybe unable to find jobs in the next term or during this situation?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that is a really, really good question, because this is one of the things that is very distinctively Waterloo, right? Is our co-op programs. And wouldn't you know it, this is the year that we launched our new Honors Arts co-op program. Now, that won't be affecting our Honors Arts co-op students who are coming in first year, at least not yet, because we wouldn't be expecting you to be going out on co-op like right now. But it is a little ironic that that we started it in a year where co-op is facing a lot of challenges. Surprisingly, co-op, our co-op people have done a fairly good job. Well, actually, no, that sounded stingy. I'm going to say a really good job in finding employment for students in an incredibly challenging time. Now, having said that, I don't want anyone who is unable to find employment to feel as though they're somehow lacking, because you're not. This was a really, really challenging time. And co-op and experiential education have done their best. But our employment rates are just definitely way down from what they normally are, which is somewhere around 95 to 97%. So yes, we're all recognizing that there's difficulty finding jobs. There's not enough jobs to go around, absolutely. So co-op and experiential education has developed what they're calling a flexible pathways program. And this is one of the first things actually that the university did like many months ago in terms of seeing what the problems were going to be and what the challenges were going to be. We realized, especially with some of our more senior students who are getting near the end of their program, that they might not be able to have a fourth or fifth co-op term, and that they're so close to the end of their program that could have been disastrous if we held them to it. So the flexibility that's now been added in means that students are going to be able to graduate with fewer work terms than were originally required. So we dropped by one, which is where we're sitting for the moment. Obviously, we don't know how long everything is going to last, and as we go along, everything is fluid, and other initiatives may need to be undertaken in order to deal with this. But certainly one thing was to reduce the number of co-op work terms required. The university has also done its best to hire co-op students itself. UW actually is always the biggest single employer of our co-op students. I don't know if people know that. But even more so right now, because we've hired a lot of co-op students to do this online learning assistance role to help professors putting their material online and support them delivering it remotely. So that's one thing then, is this flexibility in terms of the number of jobs or number of co-op terms you need. An approach to trying to mitigate the loss of jobs outside by doing some hiring inside. Also relaxing our rules around taking courses on a co-op term if you can't find a job. And so students are going to be allowed to take up to 5 courses in the winter term. A lot of students chose to do this in the past spring terms, take 5 full courses, even though it would otherwise have been a co-op term for them. So we're going to be allowing that for the winter term coming up. And also providing some flexibility for students who maybe are finding jobs in a way that isn't through the normal channels that we use. So students who are finding their own jobs, or students who are finding positions in the not-for-profit sector. And if I could just for a moment speak on a sort of non-COVID front, that is something that is sort of close to my heart, is to find ways for our students to have co-op placements, more co-op placements in not-for-profit organizations. The chief problem there, of course, is that not-for-profit organizations very often cannot afford to pay what we would consider to be a reasonable co-op wage. And so, you know, I think we're going to be doing fundraising to see if we can do this, but find other ways as well to remove barriers to doing, taking on co-op jobs and getting co-op credit for a variety of positions that could be extremely interesting, extremely enriching, but that maybe are not sort of a traditional job that gets a, you know, sort of regular salary.
All right. Well, that's really exciting. Well, thank you for shedding some light for our co-op students and sort of the different things in place for them so that they're not left stranded. That's great. I guess sort of going along that vein of not talking about COVID for a second, a lot of the questions are about COVID, and that's fair. But apart from COVID, what are some other challenges that the Faculty of Arts is being faced with right now, and what are the action plans to overcome these challenges?
Really fair question. I think about the Faculty of Arts at UW, and you know, it's hard to get a real, you know, I mean, I'm speaking with you, Nathaniel, as someone who's representing our students. It'd be kind of interesting to know what the students on this in this gathering are thinking too. But one of the challenges I think that the Faculty of Arts has always faced at UW is understanding, asserting, recognizing, whatever, its place in an institution that is widely known for its STEM focus. So the strength of engineering and computer science here are very, you know, I don't want to say they're very loud, but they are loud. You know, I consider the Faculty of Arts to be equally strong, but there is an angle to Waterloo ever since it was founded, because this was the purpose behind its founding, was to provide a kind of pragmatic and initially engineering-focused education when it was first founded in 1957. Now, you cannot be a university and not have a Faculty of Arts. You simply cannot. I mean, this is not in any way a criticism of the disciplines that my colleagues in engineering and math and science study. I mean, I actually was torn myself as to whether to go into the arts or into science when I went to university. So it's not meant to denigrate that, but But without a faculty of arts and the kinds of things that a faculty of arts does, or a faculty of humanities, a faculty of social sciences, they're called different things at different institutions. Without that, I feel like you run the risk of becoming a vocational school. And I think what arts does, of course, is it brings that enrichment, that human understanding. And this is what all of you are getting. And so we are vital. But I think that over our history, simply because of the focus, the public focus on Waterloo's tech role and so on, that I think we haven't always felt that we were recognized sufficiently for the strength that we bring. And so I think students have probably seen that and heard that. I mean, I don't know if you got it from your friends who are in engineering. What are you going to do with that philosophy degree and that kind of thing? And you know what? It's amazing what you're going to do with that philosophy degree. It really is. And I genuinely believe this, that what we know and understand about the human condition is absolutely vital. And STEM disciplines at a university and the employment world outside the university are increasingly understanding the core values and the necessity of what an arts education is. But I will say, though, that has typically been one of the challenges that the Faculty of Arts here has had. It's just finding its place in what is largely seen as a STEM institution. I'm going to say, in terms of action to overcome these challenges, I think interdisciplinarity and increasing the interdisciplinary focus of what we do, I think that's a great way because it's bridge building. And I don't know if any of you are aware of this, but at the moment we run, there's this very cool course that we run in 4th year called the Global Engagement Seminar. And what it is a seminar course run by arts that is intended to look at wicked problems. And the problems change every year. And last year it was environment. This year it's going to be pandemic. So it runs in the winter term. And we bring students in from all 6 faculties. And the whole purpose of this course is finding solutions and working in interdisciplinary teams to find solutions to wicked problems. So that, to me, is the kind of arts leadership that we can have. I feel fortunate right now because actually I have a set of, I'm Dean of Arts, but we have 6 faculties here, so there's a total of 6 deans. And we are, wonderfully, I must say, a very collegial bunch. So I have a lot of hope, actually, over the next few years for doing a lot of bridge building and for assisting arts in taking that place that it deserves to have, taking on that role of leadership in what it does. And I might just sort of say by way of a footnote to that, I don't know, depending on the whatever discipline that, people on the call have chosen, whether you have faced, the sort of what are you going to do with that degree question. I got it a few times when I was at university. Just classical studies. I was doing ancient history, right? And so that's a perfect excuse for people to say, well, that's not really relevant. Well, you know what? It is relevant. It's all relevant because it's all about human behavior and understanding human condition. And one of the things I've always been grateful to my mother for was that she really, really supported me when I went to university to do whatever I wanted to do. And she was just happy that I was doing it. So you know what, if anyone ever says, what are you going to do with that degree, tell them you're going to do all kinds of things with that degree, and don't for a second ever believe that what you're doing is irrelevant, because it's not. So I think those are some of the things I might say right now. My feeling, I think another big one that I don't want to close without mentioning as well, though, is of course our recognition that the university as a whole, and that includes the Faculty of Arts, that we have not done as much as we should. In fact, we've fallen far short of what we should have done and been doing on the equity and diversity front. I think that's an extremely important aspect of what we need to be looking at moving forward. I think we need to be looking at our programming, you know, in terms of education. And this, too, to me, is an area where the arts faculty and members of it, including its students, can take a leadership role because, you know, human problems are exactly what we study. And racism, of course, is a you know, a vile human problem. So I think we need to be looking at programming, not just within the faculty, but beyond the faculty. We need to be looking at increasing our own diversity of the people who are here, and a variety of other initiatives that I think are very important for us to be addressing as we move forward. So I wanted to make sure that I did talk about that as well.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that. Yeah, definitely a lot of things in the works. I know, personally speaking for myself, I've definitely got the question of what are you going to do with arts degree before. So I'm sure lots of students can also relate to that. So yeah, it's nice to hear that message. That sort of does it for the majority of questions that we have received. I guess just to sort of close it up, we only have a few more minutes left. So do you have any closing remarks, a message to students, the Faculty of Arts, just about anything in general, really?
Sure. First of all, though, Nathaniel, can I ask what you're studying?
I'm in French studies.
Good for you. That's a great humanist discipline where you understand and learn about human beings, and that's really what pulls everything in the arts faculty together. I mean, we're a very diverse faculty, and that's another challenge, if you like, is finding some kind of unity through all the various things that we do in this faculty, you know, all the way from accounting, and then the Stratford School of Global Business and Digital Arts down to, you know, very traditional humanities disciplines like classical studies. We have such a broad array, but the thing that pulls it all together is that it is about human affairs and understanding the human world. And if you ask me, actually, that's what the entire university is about humans. Because even the sciences are around human understanding of science. Yeah, so sort of some closing remarks, I guess, would be trying to reassure everyone how much we care and that about you, and that is not always perhaps as apparent as it could be under the circumstances, given the kind of communication that we have to do, given the lack of face-to-face interaction, which, you know, I know is so important. COVID has really challenged our community building. It's challenged it for you folks. It's challenged it for us too, right? You know, I mean, I'm on this call. I'm looking at my own image with, oh gosh, am I getting tired of that background? Because I'm always here, and it's, you know, we're lonely for you guys. You know, we miss you. I really miss you, by the way, because one of the disadvantages to becoming a dean is that you tend not to be able to do much in the way of teaching, and so you get really removed from the students, and that's, you know, that's a downside. Being a dean. So I'm concerned about community. I'm concerned about everybody's well-being with the lack of community. I don't know if it helps to think of it this way, but sometimes I think we feel alone because we think the rest of the world is having a party without us. And that's not what this is, right? Because the rest of us are not having a party without you. Did it again. It held up almost till the end. We're all on our own, but we can make these connections. I, for one, am incredibly grateful that we have this technology right now. I can't imagine doing this 25 years ago without the current technology. That it would absolutely devastating. So my big message is when you do feel alone, please remember that others are feeling that way too. And please remember that you can reach out at any time to any of us. Always, always reach out to us. And then also, I think I might say, please give us your ideas, whether it goes through the ASU or, another channel through your advisor or whatever, of ways that we can help, ways we can do better. And because we're really open to listening to how you're feeling. And also if you've got, like, as I say, positive ideas about what we could do to help, we really want to hear them. So I think that's what I think.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sheila, for coming here for the Q&A today and getting some of our questions answered. So that about does it for our call today. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll hope to see you at future events, and of course, best of luck to all of you with your assignments, your finals coming up. You're all going to kill it. So thanks so much, everyone, and have a good night.
Bye-bye.